Our original tasting room was in my garage, and I was in a heavy metal garage band, so it's only fitting that I was serving wine out of my garage.
Continuing my series of interviews in Walla Walla, I'm here with Dennis Murphy, and Dennis Murphy is the winemaker at Caprio Cellars. How you doing, Dennis?
I'm doing great, Ray. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. You're really in an interesting area. You're a bit out of town, more on the edge, I guess I'd say, and a very open area.
Well, when I moved to Walla Walla, I looked around, and I really thought that the south side had a lot going on. Pepperbridge Vineyard is adjacent here, and it's one of the most famous vineyards around, and so they had something going. I figured, real estate's really my day job, so I figured if I was close to them, I might have a successful operation.
Makes sense. You still have a day job?
I do.
You mean winemaking alone hasn't set you up in the castle on the hill? I always thought it was so incredibly profitable.
That's what they told me, but I still got a day job.
So let's talk about your own particular wine journey. I ask this question of everybody, is when were you bitten by the bug? What was your journey?
So I started enjoying wine just out of college, and figured out I like to cook too, so I figured out that wine and food went well together. And I just started experimenting and drinking different wines, and fell in love with the big Napa Cabs and Merlots. And then I found myself in Washington State, and I was living in Spokane, and I heard about Walla Walla. So I came down to Walla Walla, and I saw what was going on. This was in 1999. And I said, you know what? I want to be a part of this. I'm going to move to Walla Walla. I'm going to learn how to make wine, and I'm going to one day have my own winery.
Had you done any home winemaking before that at all?
I had not. So I came down here and made friends with winemakers and started to work harvest with them. And I did that for about 8 years prior to making my first vintage in 2008.
What kind of reception did you get, being that you were kind of green?
I think the community is really open and was really welcoming, and I was excited to be part of it. And there were probably only 20 or 30 wineries in Walla Walla at the time, and so it was a pretty tight-knit group, and people were looking for help. And so, they wouldn't turn me away. And
yeah, I'll bet.
And I was pretty clear that I was going to do my own thing one day, and people weren't taken aback by that. And as I worked with other winemakers, I learned that I wanted to have my own estate vineyards. When the fruit came in, it was the estate vineyard fruit was always better for some reason. And so I took that route where I found the property, planted the vineyard, and then had my first release on my estate fruit.
What vintage was that?
2008.
2025, this is for our listeners, this is August, mid-August 2025, and a beautiful piece of property and an incredible tasting room. So you've come pretty far in a very short period of time, I'd say. Yeah,
it's been a fun journey. Our original vineyard's just right here on property, and our original tasting room was in my garage, and I was in a heavy metal garage band, so it's only fitting that I was serving wine out of my garage. And so then we just kind of made it a go, and people started coming. And at the beginning, it was first vintage was 150 cases, and there was one employee, that was me.
Yeah.
And I would fulfill the wine club at night. I'd put a couple of boxes together after work, and then fall asleep, and then do it. Took 2 or 3 weeks to get wine club out, but we got her out. Because it was just me, I know how every part of the business works, and the good news is I've got people who are way better at me at most things today. So our team is doing a great job.
So you played in a metal band. What do you play?
I played bass and drums.
Oh, both. That's hard to do at the same time.
Yeah, it just depended on who was better. Who was rotating through the band. I mostly played bass, but we got the band back together a couple years ago, and I played the drums because I was a stronger drummer. So it's been fun. Music's a good time. People ask me about bass a lot, and I said, when bass is in a song, you don't really notice it, but when it's not in the song, that's when you notice the bass is gone. And I draw those music parallels to winemaking, because a lot of these grapes that we work with, different varietals, provide that backbone, kind of like a bass player or a drum player. And then there's some of these that are a little more perfumey or racy that provide some of the lead guitar, some of the solos, some of the vocals. So there you go. You asked for it, so there you go.
No. That's good. Are you distributed? Are you around different parts of the country, or strictly local? How does that work for you?
So we're still pretty small production, and the best. I am a businessman, so the best business model is to sell direct to consumer. And so we really launched Caprio Cellars with the thought of having people come to our hospitality center. And if you look at the way that we greet our guests and treat our guests, it's really important to us for people to have a really good experience and taste really good wine. And we also have really talented chefs. And so because of that, over the last 6 years, we've earned over 2,000 five-star Google reviews.
Wow.
And that puts us in a league of our own. The next closest winery probably has about 300 reviews. And so because of this really specific focus on hospitality and an experience, we've really been able to draw a crowd and have really committed customers and people seeking us out. We're not a restaurant. Right. We do food and wine pairings, and our chef rotates the menu about every 2 weeks. And he uses as much local, fresh ingredients as he can source. And so it's really small plates pairing with the wines that we're offering. And we rotate those wines because we'll sell out of our white or our rosé. And so then we'll just be focusing on reds during the fall and winter sometimes. And then in the spring, we'll lighten everything up.
Do you have a consultant that you work with at all?
I used to make my wine at Artifacts, and they have several consultants on staff there that would, if I was out of town, they could do a punch down or do whatever for me. I since have become a partner at Pepperbridge, so I use their assistant winemaker and some of their cellar people to help me manage if I'm on the road, because I do travel a ton on my other job.
I would bet. And yeah, and I still can't get over having this kind of a property and another job. Of course, one thing feeds the monster, doesn't it? But getting that extra opinion for you, I'm sure that has to be a big deal, because when you start, I mean, you can taste it, but you got to be careful not to get a house palate. How does that work for you?
I would say that one of the blessings is that I'm a super taster, so I can smell and taste things that I think other people can't. And so I think that's made me a better chef. It's also made me a better winemaker. And so I also am in a position where I've tasted a lot of really good wine, and I have a good syndication of winemakers here in the Valley and other places where I can taste samples with them of their wine, of my wine. And I really think that it's that muscle memory and that repetition that can make you a great winemaker.
When did you discover, or how did you discover you were a super taster?
When I was younger, I just would sense things and taste things, and people would be like, yeah, I'm not getting that. And even when I was, in my teens, I could sense and taste things. And then it just, as I became an adult, it really became apparent that I was experiencing things that other people weren't.
Well, we should probably talk about the wines you're making here. What are you making here?
So I make a white wine. It's mostly Sauvignon Blanc with some Semillon, and that's all of these wines are estate fruit. I have 4 estate vineyards now. The next wine would be the Rosé of Cab Franc, which is very much a light style rosé. In some lights, it almost looks white, and but it's also got a great body and can hold up to like a piece of fish or something like that. It's not super sweet, but and then we would go into the Cabernet Sauvignon that I make, and we also have 2 red blends, the Eleanor and the Sanatella red blend. That's the lineup. It's 5 wines.
What makes Washington wine special?
There's a couple of things. There's the factual things, like the fact that we're a similar latitude to Bordeaux, France. I know that there's a lot of varietals grown in the Walla Walla Valley. I'm big on the Bordeaux varietals, and I think that we make exceptional Cabernet Sauvignons and Merlots. The difference in the soil compositions, right where we're sitting, is the glacial loess, which is a rich, fine soil, and then where my other estate vineyards are at higher elevations are on fractured basalt. And I think those two things play well with each other. The fact that we're pretty far north and we get these really long days, especially in the summer, help with the ripening. It is a con, but we do get frost, and so you have to be really diligent in the fall and the spring and use your wind machines and whatever frost protection you're going to use. But the blessing of frost is that it kills a lot of stuff in the winter. And so we'll get down to 0 degrees Fahrenheit here, and that really will kind of clean house on reoccurring problems you may have in the vineyard. So I think those things, and then the fact that we're a destination. And so from the consumer standpoint, it's a nice 3-day weekend, 2-day weekend from Seattle, Boise, Portland. And so that really helps us because people want to come here. And we've created something pretty special in the Walla Walla Valley.
I'm a little curious with your other gig, though. Do you incorporate the fact that you are a winemaker into that, or you just kind of keep that as separate as you can?
It's hard to explain because my whole life since college I've worked and run the home building company and winery, and I have several other operations that I'm involved in. And so people will say, oh, wine's your passion. I'm like, well, I'm pretty passionate about building homes. Sure. The difference is when I started the winery, I had built 5,000 homes at the time, and people didn't really care how many houses I built, but I put out that one bottle of wine, and sure as heck, people were like, "Oh my God!" I'm like, so I understood the difference in industries, and the winemaking industry is just totally different. And it when I started the home building company with my dear friend Hayden Watson, I was able to be more creative, and all of a sudden I became, talking to bankers a lot and reading contracts a lot, and so I needed that creative outlet. Yeah. And like we talked about earlier, music wasn't, was part of my life, but I needed something, and so that's why I do the wine, because I'm equal left and right brain, and I believe that the winemaking and being part of the Caprio Cellars crew really helps me be creative.
I talk about this all the time. Winemakers wearing multiple hats. And, from dealing with the books, dealing with the vineyard, dealing with employees, dealing with everything. And then you've got those other two things. You are a glutton for punishment.
Yeah.
Now, I'm really curious. You are Dennis Murphy. Where did Caprio come from?
Well, my grandmother, Eleanor Caprio, she is my father's mother. And so we're Irish and Italian. And the Caprios always had good food. They always had good wine. The Caprios made wine. They were from New York. And Eleanor's mother, Sanatella, came over from Italy, from Capri. And so the Caprios just always had this amazing feel about them and love about them. And so when I was looking at names, I searched to see if Caprio Cellars was available, and it was, and that was it.
For our listeners to come to this beautiful space, and again, what I really like is it's just in such an open space. I love the open space. I love the desert feel here, but yet there's still water everywhere. Can people just come on up here? Do they need to make an appointment? How does it work?
Yeah, so Caprio Cellars is by appointment only, and we do that because we want to be staffed appropriately for you, and we also have the food component, so we want to make sure that we have everything if you have allergies or that kind of stuff. And so we have 4 different time periods per day where we have 20 people come in, so we see 80 guests a day. And it's real easy to do. You just get online. You got to be a couple weeks out, so you want to prepare. But the 2,000 5-star Google reviews would say that it's worthwhile to book out. And really, we just want to be staffed appropriately and know who's coming and make sure we take really good care of them. So we're not trying to be offstanding, but we want to be prepared. And because we're prepared, we can tell you that you're going to have a good time when you come to Caprio Cellars.
Dennis, for our listeners who'd like to learn about Caprio online, what is your website?
It is capriocellars.com.
Excellent. Thank you for inviting me up here and seeing this wonderful place and letting us sit here around all these wonderful bottles staring at me. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.